Hello and welcome once again to the India Today Conclave here in Mumbai, where it's my great pleasure to introduce best-selling author, mythologist, a complicated word which has all kinds of connotations, and illustrator Devdutt Patnaik. Please give him a very big hand. And we are going to talk on a fascinating issue of pluralism. And is it the essence of India? So Devdutt, let's start by me suggesting that that's a truism, that India is plural, that we are a country which celebrates unity in diversity. But I want you, Devdutt, to define what pluralism means according to you, particularly from a mythological perspective, if possible, through your remarkable art of storytelling.
See, nature is diverse, so that's a given. Nature is diverse. You have different geographical areas, different climates, different kinds of plants, animals. How humans respond to diversity is different. So pluralism is a human response to diversity. That's the difference between these two words. Diversity is what you have, it's the stimulus. And pluralism is a response, a choice of response. Now if you go from the look at India, look at the map, and then you have India right in the center, and you travel westwards. You will find cultures which for 1,000 years were told that on Friday you have to pray. Entire cultures. You go beyond and you'll find entire cultures which for 1,000 years were told every Sunday you have to pray. Now move towards the east. And you go towards and you'll find cultures that you can't access without passing through a firewall or a great wall, where everybody writes the same script, even though they speak multiple languages which are called dialects. So, when I give lectures, I always show the Indian currency note, and I show them the Chinese currency, and I say, how many scripts do you see on a Chinese currency? And that script can be pronounced differently in North China, South China, East China, West China. You go to, you show the US dollar bill, how many languages do you have? You show them the European Union, and you see the struggle to keep 4 scripts on it. And then I make them read the number of languages and scripts you have to see in the Indian currency. And that itself shows, whether you like it or not, you have to deal with diversity in India. The statement given is pluralism is the essence of India. Diversity is the essence of India. Pluralism is about Indians. Are Indians plural? India is diverse. That's a given. You can't do anything about it. This is what you're given. Indians as human beings, do we choose to be plural? Now, that Indian part is important. So, India and Indian are not the same thing. India is an entity. But Indians are people who have to take decisions. And for me, pluralism is a decision.
But, the anthropological survey of India suggests that this is a land of 4,635 communities, that is i.e. India. The linguistic survey of India, 22 languages in the 8th schedule alone, 100 other languages and dialects. Now, therefore, in this, what we've accepted as a diverse country, how do you actually embrace pluralism? Is it about acceptance of the other? We have among the largest religious minorities in this country. We have people who are linguistic minorities, the sheer variation of caste groups, communities. How do you build a sense of plural values in such a vast, diverse society?
I don't think anybody is a majority in India. Nobody is a majority in India. We fool ourselves. We use slice and dice techniques to call that this is a majority community and that is a minority community. But you genuinely look at India, it is a collection of minorities. And then the minorities cluster together to form various kinds of interest groups depending on how they want to shape their lives. There is no majority. I mean, there is no such thing. I mean, democracy is based on these structures. But because you have to make choices with few people, and the process demands creation of majorities and minorities. But generally, the country is full of different linguistic groups, different tribal groups, different ethnic groups, even when we say a minority religion, there is no one group. There are multiple groups within that, linguistically divided, culturally divided, ritual practices that they follow. So there is no majority that I can't find it.
You know, you're saying something contentious and controversial here. You're saying there's nothing like a majority community in that sense in India. Because we now are living in the times, particularly of so-called political Hindutva, where we are told there's one culture, one religion, one nation that defines in a way what it is to be Indian. You seem to suggest that that would be not an accurate reflection of a reality that India is. Is that what you are saying? No, that as we understand Hindutva or even Hinduism, there are those who will say India is essentially plural because Hinduism, the majority religion, is essentially plural. I celebrate Dahi Handi in Mumbai. Someone celebrates Janmashtami in Mathura. Someone else may have a Krishna consciousness cult in another part of the country. And we all in our own way can celebrate in our own little spaces.
So the key part of pluralism is you don't debate.
No debate.
No. विवाद नहीं संवाद होता है.
ये भी सही, वो भी सही.
अपने दृष्टिकोण से सभी सही. अपने दृष्टिकोण से सभी सही. So everyone is right. So politician has to speak the language of majority and minority. A talk show host and a journalist has to be provocative. I don't have to take the bait. The thing is, because
a mythologist also has to be provocative in his or her way.
Well, in order to intellectually stimulate people, not for TRPs.
What is, we were discussing this before. You wanted to sort of, in a way, demystify mythology for people.
So, mythology is somebody's truth. Myth, the word myth means somebody's truth. So I met this gentleman from religious cultural organization saying, Devdutt, mythology word comes from the word mithya. So I said, aapke paas phone hai, let's Google it. Let's see the etymology of the word mythology. So he got very up. I said, no, kariye. Samke samne. So he became very defensive, but I said, search. And then I told him that the etymology of the word mythology is the word mythos, which is a Greek word for stories. And the Sanskrit equivalent of it is Akhyan. So the closest Hindi word for mythology is Akhyan Shastra. But it is a little bigger than that because it's not just stories, it's also symbols and rituals. So it's slightly complicated. But then he kept using the word, nahi, ye British have used this word to insult us. So I said, why don't you Google Islamic mythology? Because he said, no, Islam ko Islam. So I said, Google. So there it was, lots of articles on Islamic mythology. Then I said Christian mythology, lots of articles on Christian mythology. So I said, everywhere there is mythology. Tell me where there is no mythology. And then I quoted Adi Shankaracharya. Jagat mithya brahma satyam. Then he didn't know what to say. I said, Jagat mithya, matlab aap jag ke ho, to aap bhi mithya ho. And then he didn't know how to react because what is mithya? Mithya is limited truth. That's the myth, that's a technical word. But myth is somebody's truth. Fact is everybody's truth. Fiction is nobody's truth. Myth is somebody's truth. If somebody believes in God, it's not a historical concept, it's not a scientific concept, but it is a matter of faith. It's his truth. I don't want to prove him right or wrong. I'm curious about his truth, so I will do samvad with him. Vivad is you are right, I am right, you are wrong, there is the truth, there is one truth. While samvad is, I want to expand my truth. I want to know more. At the end of this conversation, do I know more? And at the end of this conversation, have I contributed more? Now, this cannot happen in a parliament. This cannot happen in a studio. So,
isn't that the essence, therefore, of Hinduism? As distinguished from Islam and Christianity, which are essentially seen as monotheistic religion, Hinduism, by its very nature, and I gave you the example of the celebration of Janmashtami and Gokulashtami. I was stunned once that outside the Meenakshi Puram temple, you have a kitchen called Amma's Kitchen where they will serve the best rabbit meat. So, this is a country from gastronomic diversity to religious diversity. Is that, in a sense, because we come back to it, because India is Hindu, therefore by its very nature tends to be plural, where we all have our own traditions, our own ways of celebration, our different ways of living our lives?
So, India evolved in a particular way. It evolved in a particular way where this concept of religion doesn't quite emerge for a variety of reasons. There are many, many sociological reasons. So the monotheism really comes from Middle Eastern traditions. All the monotheistic ideas come from Middle Eastern traditions. India gives you a very different way of thinking because it is based on the idea of rebirth. India the one big idea which came out of South Asia or Indian subcontinent is rebirth. And rebirth is a very different way of looking at life. While Middle Eastern tradition said you live only once and that one life has to be perfect. And if that one life has to be perfect, you need a perfect set of rules telling you this is the way you're supposed to live. And therefore, at the end of your life, you'll be judged by God. So God as a judge is a very Middle Eastern idea. It doesn't exist in India. At best, India, God is an accountant. Based on your debt and equity, your future is decided. So this constant balance sheet is never closed. As long as you have debts to repay, you will be reborn. And when you have no debts to be repaid, moksha. Moksha mil gaya. But the problem is you may have no debts to repay, but others have to pay debts to you. So then you're still trapped. So if others have to, then you have to write off those loans. Otherwise, they will have to repay you and you're stuck. So this is a conceptual difference which we don't understand. And now let me give you the implications of this. Sounds very fantastic. India's constitution was made by 350 people. 250 people were lawyers, where they genuinely believe in the concept of justice. Justice is a Middle Eastern idea. Adl, it's called Adl. It's there in Islam, it's in Christianity. In India, the word nyaya just means rational thought, traditionally. Traditionally, nyaya just means rational thought. The idea of justice doesn't exist because you have many lives to lead. You carry baggage of previous lives, you carry baggages forward. How do you explain? Because justice demands qayamat, judgment day. So the kind of value we give the justice system, Indian system will say judges, lawyers, if you're rich, anything will become just. You just have to get the right lawyer and everything will be sorted, as we know.
And since you mentioned and referred to the Constitution also valued the concept of equality. How does that concept of equality now fit in with notions of pluralism and diversity? If we want to celebrate being a diverse society, how does a diverse plural society also become an equal society?
So diversity and equality are opposites of each other. And it's something that very few people find it hard to digest. Because equality as an idea comes from Middle Eastern mythology. God is fair, everybody is created equal, and on Judgment Day, everybody, or with the second coming, on Qayamat, God will judge everyone with the same index. So we are all, therefore, everybody is to pray the same way, worship the same way, align the same way, the same rule book, the same prophet, everything is one. Highly efficient, very efficient. Because everybody talks the same language, everybody prays the same way. It's so efficient. It's not messy. Unfortunately, life is messy. Unfortunately, nature doesn't like equality and homogeneity. Nature is not homogeneous. Nature is designed to be heterogeneous. And India, somehow, the Indian scholars said, okay, how do we deal with this? Our yearning for equality, but the reality of plurality, diversity, the reality of diversity. And so they came up in India with the concept of Atma and Sharir. They say Sharir is diverse, Atma is equal. So who are you talking to? क्या आप मेरे शरीर से बात कर रहे हो या मेरे आत्मा से बात कर रहे हो? Politicians don't care for Atma because it will not make you Raja, no? Because Raja wants people to bow to him. And that was the problem. We forget that when the Mughals came to India, traditionally we all talk of the Mughals as Muslims, but we forget that the Mughal empires mythology was very different from the mythology of the Safavid Empire, which was in Iran, which was Shia, which is very different from the mythology of the Ottomans who were in Turkey. They were Shiite, they were Sunni, and they called themselves the Caliphate. And the caliphs, if you see the tomb, how they buried themselves, these fabulous tombs like Taj Mahal and all that is not there anywhere. It's not there in Turkey. You go to any tomb, the big sultans of Ottoman Empire, no great tomb. There is no great tomb. Safavid would bury themselves next to the Shia, the holy men of the land. In India, the Mughals said, no, we are semi-divine. Because in India, they loved the concept of people doing Sashtang Namaskar. Akbar loved people coming and doing Sashtang like many politicians today. Aurangzeb changed it. He didn't like, the ulema got very upset, you can't do this, and he said, nahi, ye nahi kar sakte ho. So you suddenly see, Akbar loved the idea of Jharokha. Come Jharokha mein darshan karo mera. Darshan was an Indian idea. The kings loved it. So the Mughals built, even white marble was used. White marble is only used for the saints. Marble is not used for kings. The Mughals said, no, we will use marble. So this mythology of India, Selly understood in a diverse society, there will be hierarchy. Because when you and I are different, like you are different from me, I am different from you, there is a implicit hierarchy here, whether we like it or not. Age, experience, backgrounds. In any human relationship, there is hierarchy. So equality doesn't work in an Indian mythological setup.
So from the era of those kings and demigods, we are in the era which places a premium on efficiency. Get things done in the most efficient manner. How does efficiency square up also with this notion of diversity? If you're going to celebrate diversity, celebrate pluralism, how are you going to make that system efficient, which essentially means all of us have to work to a particular singular objective?
Single idea. So notice this, because the entire management system is based on the East India Company, which was based on Christianity. And even today, all corporates follow the East India Company, and therefore they are all into grabbing market share and dominating the market and crushing the competition. And the language is violent, right? The whole violent language, the violence, hinsa, kitna hinsa hai. But look at this. You have to go to a Hindu temple. Let's go one by one. If you want to be, so you go to a Shiv ki mandir. Shiv ke mandir mein kacha doodh chढ़ाना पड़ता है. You have to give bel ka patta. अब विष्णु के मंदिर में जाओ तो आपको वहाँ तुलसी देना पड़ता है. You have to give makhan. What is efficiency? सबको गेंदा फूल दे दो, टेंशन नहीं ले. एवरीबडी इतना, हर देवता को अलग देना. नीम का पत्ता, गिव द गॉड इज नीम. Ganesh, if you go to Siddhi Vinayak, you have to give Durva grass, and you have to give, every god has a specific, what we call customization. Because every god loves an individual customer experience. You will say, no, I want to be efficient. I will give because mera bhakti hai, and of course you will use a lawyer to sell the idea that wahi phool patte se sab kaam chala lenge. तो भगवान बोलेंगे देखो standardized नैवेद्य तो standardized प्रसाद. Because if government, we like efficiency, but to be effective, you have to customize. You have to speak in the language of the people. If you want to connect with people in different parts of India, you better speak that language. You can't expect them to speak your language because it is efficient. And efficiency and effectiveness is the challenge of management. And you want to connect with people, you have to speak their language, you have to understand their attire, you have to go down and engage with the diversity of those spaces. Otherwise, efficiency will not give you the results that you want. It's very convenient to talk from, like, I want to be efficient, I want to be efficient. It doesn't work. I mean, you had to, at the end of the day, McDonald's, when it came to India, at the end of the day, they had to do a glorified vada pav in order to be successful. They had to customize to India, and now they are everywhere in the world you go, McDonald's customizes to the local ecosystem, because that's how you succeed. You succeed by giving the right naivedya to the right devata. As we know.
You know, fascinating. So we've looked at the notions of equality and efficiency and whether they square up with pluralism and diversity which we celebrate. Let me be provocative. At this moment, we have a BJP minister here also, so a good time to in a sense, and from Arunachal, very interestingly as well. And I'm going to say this, that we've never fully appreciated pluralism because Hindu mythology, and dare I say now Hindutva, is centered around the Hindi heartland. That the Ramayana and Mahabharata in particular have exercised disproportionate influence. I've been seeing your tweets praising this new movie, Kannada movie, which is the sensation at the moment, Kantara, which tells the story of Tulu Nadu and tells these wonderful folk traditions of southern India, of coastal Karnataka in particular. And people will say these little traditions are also very much part of our mythology, they are very much part of our society, have never been celebrated. And because we want this one culture, one nation, possibly one language, you speak Odia, I speak Marathi, we are never going to be one language. The minister speaks also, I'm sure, multiple languages. Do you believe that we need to recognize that there is a world beyond the Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan, Hindutva worldview of India?
See, we have to wear a politician's hat. And from a political point of view, 50% of India lives in the Gangetic Plains. So if I want to be powerful in India, I just have to make sense to the Gangetic Plain. The rest of India has to pay for them. So it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's just mathematics. Look at it from a business point of view. The rest of India, you have got like several languages, very difficult to satisfy all the groups. Imagine, you will never get the Kannadigas to agree with the Tamilians and the Tamil. They can't even settle water disputes. It's so much more easier. Just speak Hindi, get the vote from the Gangetic Plains, and everybody else will bow to you. The Mughals knew it. The Sultanates knew it. The politicians know it. The politicians are very clear. It's not about goodness of heart. It's about power. It's about grabbing power. I don't know what to do with it after I get it, but I want the power. So that's what you do. And I would advise the politician to stick to that line, because you will be, you want the Jharoka Darshan.
That's their market share.
Yeah,
that's
their market share. What to do now? That's life. भाग से भगवान शब्द कहां से आता है? भगवान शब्द वहां से आता है जो भाग समझता है, कितना पोर्शन किसको देना चाहिए. इसलिए भगवान शब्द भाग और भग से आता है. Portioning, apportioning. But God knows, in this life you are on top of the wheel. You know the Dharma Chakra of our flag. In this life you are on top of the wheel. Even the later part of the life you will be at the bottom of the wheel. Aega, jayega. That's Sanatana Dharma.
Arre vah, arre vah. Let me in a way conclude by asking you this. In this country of multiple gods, where we worship, we have folk traditions, we have great traditions. Is there a God out there, a figure in a way, from a mythological perspective, who truly in a sense represents this essence of being plural, or allows us to be plural?
Well, it's not a god, it's a goddess.
Nicer.
Yeah, not really. She could be queer.
Absolutely.
So, the thing is, the gods keep shape-shifting. वो रूप बदलते रहते हैं. आपकी बुद्धि के अनुसार वो रूप लेंगे. If you're a fool, they'll be simple. If you're smart, they'll be complex. Because they also have to deal with all kinds of bhakts. The gods know कि बदलना पड़ता है आदमी के लिए. जितना उसका क्षमता है उतना ही भोजन दो. पाचन शक्ति है नहीं तो उतना ही परोसो जो वो पाचन कर सकता है. And that's why there is no one form of the god. The gods are, for the smart person, she's Saraswati. For the hungry person, she's Lakshmi. For the insecure person, she's Durga. Now you decide who you are, and the gods will take shape. उनको कोई problem नहीं. नौटंकी करना उन्हें भी आता है.
Arre vah. That's a wonderful way, in a way, to try and demystify this unique Indian way of life and living, which I believe is in a way the reason why we celebrate being India and being Indian, and for putting it in the kind of perspective that you have, Devdutt. Thank you very much. I think you've in a way given us plenty of food for thought, not necessarily just for our dinner. You've made us think at a time like this. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Devdutt Patnaik.
Thank you, and thank you, Rajdeep. Could I invite Dr. Seema Saini, CEO, NL Dalmia Education Society, to share a vote of thanks with Devdutt.